Welcome to Conversations with Chuck Bennington. I'm Chuck Bennington, and I don't know it all, and I don't pretend to, but I do know that I love my son, and I want him to have a better, faster, smoother journey through the trials and tribulations of life than I had myself. So here's my documented journey, stories, lessons, and experiences that are really for you, buddy. I love you.
Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Chuck. I got the name of the podcast right today.
I was waiting on bated breath, but it's all the same.
Yeah, it's all the same. How are you, sir?
Dude, I'm super good. I don't know if you can tell. So this is interesting. Maybe I wasn't like as crazy about the lighting in the office as well. I was more crazy than I thought.
Yep.
Does my face look a little red to you?
Maybe
a little bit. You can't pick it up too
Yeah.
much. Vanessa lasered me last night with a laser.
Good date night fun.
She plasmaed me, and then we went and saw a movie.
Nice.
I don't know if this is. I don't know how. This is an interesting thing that I'm today years old when I realized that like I have no fucking clue how movie releases on a typical sense work internationally. I know that you know when The Rock makes a movie, the whole world gets it at the same time. But for other shit, are you familiar with a movie called Don't Worry, Darling? Have you seen any trailers for that?
Yeah. Yep. Go and see it.
Was not the best movie I've ever seen by any stretch, but like thoroughly entertaining and a little bit mind-bending, and that's the kind of shit that we dig. So we did some businessing, and then Vanessa lasered me, and then we did some movie time, and then that was about our night. Then we were like, holy shit, it's way too late to eat dinner. Let's just make some eggs. We've been eating a lot of eggs lately, as I just kind of, in this first 90 seconds of the podcast, give broad stroke overviews of like what's going on in life at the moment. Got a haircut this week, got my face lasered. I'm traveling to coach this weekend. We've been eating a shitload of eggs.
Yeah.
And anyway, let's talk about money.
Yeah. Well, before we talked about money, I'm going to do a quick check-in with you as you held me accountable to. About our call that we had a couple of weeks ago on your mindset work around your focus and the focus on focusing. Well, and we had the little task, and I wanted just to spend a couple of minutes checking in to see how.
I'm gonna take you out because I think the visual's nice. Right? I found a consistent spot to use for my focusing. Mm-hmm. It was outdoors, as we had talked about. I was grounded, as we had talked about. And man, I hope I don't like lose the internet. So what I'm going to do is I'll point to it. I'll walk over there. Let's see. It's right. Nice. That tree right there, right about where I'm wiggling my finger. There's a little knot in the tree. And so we're going to try to walk closer just so I can get a still shot of it so you can see it. And then the story will follow.
Okay.
Bump, bump, bump. Still holding internet. Internet.
I don't think I've been out in your backyard yet.
You see this knot in the tree here?
I do see it.
That was my focal point to stare at. Now, talking through it as an experience, initially felt a lot of anxiety that it felt like, hey, you've got tons of shit that you need to be working on, and here you are staring at a tree. And especially because of like some phrases and things that I use in my coaching with other people, like it makes it hard for me to internalize the right answer because we're all our own worst critics. And so anyway, where I'm going with this relative to my mindset is it was like, you should be working, you should be working, you should be working. You're just staring at a fucking tree. And I was like, you know what? It's deliberate. It's purposeful. It's 5 minutes. So there was a reframe, right? It's like you on a regular basis, like after you're done shitting, you often waste another 5 minutes scrolling on Instagram before you finally wipe your ass and get up, you lazy piece of shit. It's like, all right, fair enough. Like it's 5 minutes of something deliberate. And so was able to pretty regularly in the sessions get past kind of the anxiety and like feeling of irresponsibility in doing the thing. It's like a good way to try to talk myself out of something that is a bit of an unpleasant task. So that was good. And then that transitioned initially into boredom, right? Because you're just like, all right, I'm cool not doing anything else. I don't know.
Welcome back.
I just started getting a DNS error.
Yeah, that's
But
funny
like
because we
other
went out in the
websites
yard
so
and you got inside.
anyway,
Nope.
we'll have a couple seconds to edit out. But as I transitioned from boredom, it got to the, like the intended point of being able to find focus despite the initial mental distraction, but also like enjoying the focus of kind of the quote that I use in coaching is that the novice finds novelty and variety, and the expert finds novelty and nuance. And so just like started to really, engage deliberately in focusing on looking at that fixed point and kind of like just exploring that area of the tree with my eyes. And then that ended up giving me the ability to see some itty bitty tiny little black ants that were kind of crawling around in the bark and in and around the knot. And so that let me kind of gamify it a little bit in my head. Is like as I went out to do more of it through the preceding days, that was a good gauge for me of like how fast I was getting away from distraction into focus. Is like how quick are you seeing those little ants?
Yep.
And that was really interesting because initially, and still to this point, it might just be like luck of the draw based on like where ants are in a tree outside, and it's a fairly chaotic system. But there hasn't been a single instance that I have had where upon walking out there and looking at the knot that I have been able to immediately go into like seeing and identifying ants crawling on the piece of the tree. Causational, correlational, probably little column A, little column B, as you like to say. A little bit of both. But that was at least like an interesting piece that I was aware of, and I wanted to kind of communicate back to you. So went through kind of sequence of initial anxiety and guilt, and then boredom, and then enjoying the process, and then got like an objective measure of the process, and then eventually, since it's been a week and a half or so, started to kind of like lose myself in that piece of the process and enjoy it a little bit more. And then got like super focused, and 2 days ago was doing my thing, doing my little exercise, and I was like, holy shit, my feet are on fire because I'm being attacked by an enormous number of ants. And so little black ants in the tree are not the same as the big fucking angry red ants on the ground that live at the bottom of the tree. But I'd avoided it for several days in a row, or maybe I was just progressively getting closer.
Yeah.
But
that'll bring you back to the present every time.
Yeah, it felt good. As somebody who does regularly engage in like meditation and walking, meditation as well, and just like general mindfulness, it was nice to engage in the process in like a little bit more of a new and novel way, because so much of, the tools and the strategies that we do find that do work, we have the ability to just run them into the fucking ground as humans. And so like, it was just nice to reframe on something else. And it was a helpful exercise. And it's something that, I'll carry with me. And I've been, thinking about it a little bit more because it is a good reframe for me. And so last week I'd show my little timer, my little clock timer. And so probably what I'll explore like this week is we have like just a lot of plants that exist in our life and in our house, because we feel like that if you got a bunch of plants that are alive around you, like you probably got decent enough vibes into the universe, right? Like
you're mastering adulting
at a minimum, right? So you've either got some amount of like structure and consistency, or it's better for the air, or it's just fucking prettier, or you got good vibes, but something. So anyway, I'll probably work on using same tool but different setting. That'll probably be like what I explore in the next week.
Yep, cool. And it's just designed to give you a manual switch to teach you how to get that focus, but then turn it off again, and then
and like that,
and be okay with
and purpose of the tool and the exercise. Then that is kind of what I've found, is it really has in fairly short order helped me just let the noise drop off, so that I have the ability to moving into focus on a specific task rather than in the middle of the noise trying to focus on a task.
Yep, that's good. And it can just give you a little reset even between tasks and objectives. So I'm glad you got something out of that. That was really good.
Yeah.
And it's something you can continue on, something very small. So well done you for doing your homework.
Well, and work works when nothing works, right?
Absolutely. So on the subject of work and all things related to work, today's topic I thought really we could talk for hours on, but clearly there'll be more episodes to come, is all about all things money, which we flagged at the start. So, money makes the world go round, and there's lots of ways to think about it. And, I flagged before we started recording, when I was a child, there were no conversations with my parents or my mother about money, or just I knew we had none. It was just a thing that was never in existence. It was always this mythical thing we never had enough of.
That was very similar to my childhood and the vast majority of my life with my parents, and intersecting with both of my biological parents, even at this point in life. Love them to death, but for sure, very much so like poor person mindset.
Yeah. And
like in a way that I'm like, holy shit, it is a wonder that my own views and beliefs around money are as different as they are. Not necessarily better, not right or wrong, but just how much
different.
my beliefs and perspectives have shifted relative to both of my biological parents, and then my stepdad, Jack. Just never talked about money like whatsoever, but everything with my mom for sure was very deeply entrenched in true scarcity. But if you exist in it and continue to speak more of it in existence, like you're fucking stuck there for your whole life.
Yeah, and and it's amazing how just even that one concept of always hearing that there's never enough, and you're not meant to have it, or people who have lots of it must have done something wrong to get it. What sort of limiting beliefs that creates within you. And then as an adult, and sometimes you literally, I know I was today years old when we had a conversation on one of my coaching calls, and you had me write down what were my 5 limiting beliefs about money, because you're acting like you're allergic
isn't
to
that
it.
like, holy shit, there is something very powerful. I mean, you're a mindset coach, you're a coach, and like you do this, you've engaged in the Fit Affiliate process, and we're friends, but dude, writing things down.
Oh, so much power in it.
These stories or beliefs or ideas that you might not even be aware of. They might just kind of drift through your periphery and your subconscious, and you're like, I didn't, I've heard it my whole life, but I didn't really realize that I actually vilified wealthy, successful people. I've thought about it my whole life, but like, holy shit, I didn't realize that I was really at a moral crossroads of feeling like making a bunch of money is somehow a thing that can't be done ethically or morally. And like when you write the things down, you're like, the challenge I would encourage to people, if it seems too abstract, to dig around in the dark. And so this is for you, Liam. Don't necessarily search for your limiting or empowering beliefs about money. Simply write down beliefs that you have about money. What is money? Why does it exist? How does it get used? What are the stories that you tell yourself about people that have lots of it? What are the stories that you tell yourself about people that have little of it? And what are the trade-offs that you believe exist between having lots of money and anything else? Because we would always assume that there is necessarily a trade-off, that if we are accumulating a whole lot of one thing, it is at the detriment potentially of something else. And so investigate those belief structures, and like don't look at it as positive or negative, right or wrong. That's important. That's something that I wish I would have thought of, because they had a lot of inner turmoil and angst, and I've been able to be a more nuanced human as I grow a little bit older, wiser, and more mature, that like many truths can simultaneously coexist, that are all within the bounds of both reality and falsehood. And like that is really mind-fucky.
Yeah, 100%.
And it, like I guess as an example, there was a trip that my mom had come on back early in the summer. And we had organized for the weekend that she was going to be here, and we didn't know it in advance, but we organized a lovely little neighborhood cul-de-sac potluck get-together. And I was going to, and did end up making, brisket sliders. Tasty little brisket sliders. And we were going to put them on the little Hawaiian rolls.
Buns.
Yeah. And so we went to the store, and we were just kind of grabbing stuff. And I had grabbed the name brand King's Hawaiian rolls, and that's the big brand in America. And I don't know if King's is like international or not, but like they're the big Hawaiian sweetbread like market player.
Mm.
And my mom, aghast, oh no, not the big name brand Hawaiian sweet roll. What about the store alternative to the right?
Yep.
I was like, cool, no worries, no harm, no foul. Objectively, like not a bad decision because like there's no piece of my status that's attached to like what fucking roles I bring, and like it's all going to be dismantled and served to the neighbors. So like, okay,
whatever.
If this is the thing that like weighs on you, then yeah, sure, we can save like 25 cents or whatever the difference between like these packages of like fucking tiny rolls are. And then we were moving through the rest of our grocery trip, and we were looking at some spices, some herbs. They were herbs. We were in the produce section, and my mom went and got a little packaged thing. I needed parsley for something. There was something else that I was making where parsley was a necessary ingredient. And she went and got a little some parsley trimmings in a little plastic box, and rectangular shaped on the top shelf of the groceries. There's usually like basil, parsley, a couple other like perishable herbs that are in a not just like out raw dog in a natural state, but not quite like processed spice aisle state, kind of this nice
somewhere in between.
And my mom grabbed that. And then I went and got just a whole bunch of parsley, the very much like raw dogging nature bunch of parsley. And I was like, so this and this little package is 300 times more expensive than this. And the only difference is me having to do a tiny bit of chopping. You're so worried about saving 25 cents on these sweet rolls that you don't stop to think about the math that underpins this, because it's the stories that you've told yourself about the store brand being a better value proposition than the name brand. And while that is often the case, if you are going to sit in the defensible side of like, my money beliefs lead me to make what I believe to be good decisions with my money based on the proposition of value, are you actually engaging in that mental process? Most people don't, dude, and it fucking blows my mind.
Automatic pilot.
Like, there's a really good quote, and I don't know where it originated from, and I'll probably fuck it up, but like everybody, not everybody, many of us, we step over dollars to pick up pennies. We're so concerned with like these little pieces that consume our focus and our purview that we miss like the fucking 10,000 foot big picture shit by miles.
And it's funny, like
it really is crazy to digest your own money beliefs. And so I grew up initially with a lot of scarcity, a lot of like limiting beliefs around money.
I mean, same thing, we grew up with mum would just generally buy all the generic products, and that's what we had.
And dude, there's a ton of generic stuff that Vanessa and I buy because like now I've played the game long enough. What's a real mind fuck for me with all of this? And this is all related. Do you remember the first time you did like a real run of shirts for the gym? And you're going through and you're dealing directly with the blank suppliers? And you're like, wait, there's like 4 companies on earth that make t-shirts, and I'm getting the same basic t-shirt that they're selling at the fucking mall for $60 for like $5, and I just put my art on it. Dude, that was a milestone moment in my own like growth and views and belief system of like money and how the world works. I was like, holy shit. For most products, there are only a handful of producers. And the difference between the generic brand and the name brand is simply the name and the brand.
The label,
That was so powerful for me.
But from like we had it.
That took a long time to get there. So yes, you direct us back to the beginning.
It was so we had all that sort of stuff, and even down to like not even fresh milk, we had powdered milk. So when I became, adult Lisa living independently, I deliberately and intentionally, when I'm not doing that, I just steered away from everything that, we had growing up, like, mince and sausages. It took me years to eat them again. It's like, no, I'm going to buy myself steak and I'm going to have coleslaw every night and I'm going to have cheese and tomato and da 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 da. But I made a really mindful intention. But interestingly, I still remember this conversation when I first moved out of home and I'd rung mum and I'd said, what I'd bought in shopping. She goes, "Why'd you buy all those things? Like, do you think you're fancy or something?" And it's like it was just they were staple products like flour and milk and butter, but because I'd not bought the home brand or the black and gold brand or whatever, it was like she's like, "What do you think you're
Who the
fancy now? You've
fuck do
moved out."
you think you are?
Yeah,
You're
which
like,
was
it's
essentially the thing that
flour.
came back.
It's
Yeah,
literally $2. It's not a
yeah,
fucking Lamborghini or a Ferrari, but like we have the chances to start to understand the beliefs that we believe so strongly that we don't even question them or know that they exist.
yeah. And I didn't know mine existed until we had the conversation as part of my affiliate client journey. When you're like, "Why why do you think that you shouldn't make money as an affiliate owner?" Like, what is going on here? And then
Dude,
you had
that's
me
a
write out
really
that
hard
list and it
one.
was
That's a
powerful.
uniquely difficult one. So we can kind of like,
Mm,
we can graduate there through the conversation because I think that gets into some important lessons on value. So at least formatively, was exposed to a lot of like really limiting beliefs and views around money, but it didn't quite mesh with my personality type. And so I haven't been able to figure out where through like nature or nurture or how it really curated, but the entrepreneur's journey to some degree, even though I fucking absolutely have a bajillion years of growth to go in the game. And honestly, just being very honest and transparent, I very much so struggle with like even the title or label of entrepreneur.
mm,
That is a big identity crisis ego piece for me that like I still very much so wrestle with. And it's a huge mind fuck. And we could do a whole separate episode on that. But just like relative to money, didn't have money growing up, had a lot of really limiting beliefs about the nature of money, how hard it was to get, how easy it was to lose, how disproportionate and unfair a lot of pieces of opportunity of the world are. But I didn't like being poor. Like I really didn't like not having money. And we weren't poor in the sense of like abject poverty. And I do want to make sure that I'm very deliberate in clarifying that because
yeah,
like, dude, I am a straight white guy that grew up in America, and
yeah,
my poor was not like true
yeah,
poor. As somebody who has had the privilege of traveling the planet, I very much so understand like what poor can mean. But poor relative to the place that I wanted to be in life, poor relative to the identity I chose to assume. Poor not. All right, so a couple good stories on it. My mom cut my hair many times. My mom is not a fucking hairstylist. Like that starts to clue you in on a little bit of it. My mom would aggressively try to like size up my shoes because, dude, kids grow super fast. Shoes
yep,
are fucking stupidly expensive, and like I get it. But here's where it's funny. I would have been in my junior year of high school. I currently wear a 10.5. 38 years old. My junior year of high school, my mom bought me a pair of fucking 14s. I don't
She had
know
high
what
hopes for your growth.
trajectory she thought that I was on, but like to be a fucking insecure, chubby kid with a bunch of confidence and self-esteem issues, to have a big, bright blue pair of fucking Reeboks that straight up actually looked like clown shoes, I still like very vividly remember all
Yeah,
of the walking in those shoes at school. That was
yeah,
like
that
that
would
was
not
a
have been good.
for me. That
Yeah,
crystallized like just another layer of like discontent.
it's funny. People make jokes about me buying endless CrossFit shoes because if there was a new parent, I would have it. And it was only when I sat and reflected and hearing you talk about that experience, like I remember as a kid, like you got new shoes when your big toes, at least 3 toes were coming out the side of the shoe. That's when you got new shoes.
I used to
And
try to fuck my
duct
shoes
taping
up
them.
to accelerate the wear by letting them drag when I was riding my bike. I used my shoes to stop myself when I was riding my
Nice.
bike because I always fucking hated my shoes, never had cool shoes.
Yeah,
Like, that was a
same.
big thing for me.
We had the joggers that
Yeah.
were like vinyl-y and, I duct taped them up and stuff. And that's just what we did. So, now when there's a shiny new pair of shoes, I'm like, why can't I'm going to have them. I've got a couple pairs now in surplus, because that to me is just moving me forward from that point. I didn't realize it till after I'd reflected on it one day. It's like, why do you like getting new joggers? Like, there's nothing better to me. But it's like, because I never had that.
That's how most of these things go. And
Yeah.
so anyway, like I started to become aware that like I knew of these beliefs and stories about money, and I didn't know them to be true. I questioned them very early on. But my mom did a good job in curating to me at least like the narrative that would later become limiting, but is always empowering about like just the nature of work. Well, if you want something, like you can work for it. And so I did take it upon myself very early on to start like generating my own money. I did like little landscaping stuff, pulled weeds, mowed yards, raked leaves. At one point we lived on the backside of a golf course. So I would go out and like recover balls, wash balls, like go and like sell those. So I have not liked not having money for the entirety of my life, that I have not had money and always still feel as though I don't have enough money. And I think that like some of that ends up being objectively defensible because I have like specific known goals. And it's like, no, objectively, like I don't have enough money because like there's a goal and there's a plan. And so like we've got way more than we ever need, for sure. We've got far more than we need, and we have an incredibly like blessed, great life, but like for sure still often feel very like uncomfortably scarce in money. And I don't know what at what level that gets resolved. And maybe it doesn't. I don't know. That's a piece I'm exploring.
That's kind of the same, experience is that, it's having that feeling that you've always got not enough, and having that anxiety around it. And from my coaching calls, that was always a big thing for me in the affiliate. Like I was always like, well, I don't have the money to do.
Well, and so like, XYZ. So even though like I understood the nature of work and being able to make money, where a lot of those formative childhood beliefs for me came detrimental, was being able to really wrap my head around like structures of value and value propositions. Because if your formative beliefs are like the cheapest store brand thing is just as good as the expensive brand name thing, it's very hard for yourself to just, because you so choose to, and because you can in the universe, just be like, I would rather be the expensive brand name thing. Even if I'm even if we're looking at service provider A, service provider B, product A, product B, like if you have the ability to transact for a higher price, all things aside, nothing else changes besides the price itself. If you're on the side of the person collecting the dollars, why wouldn't you want that just to want that? Right? Like if I'm going to give you $10 an hour to mow my yard, and my neighbor will give you $20 an hour to mow his yard, and it's the same mower, the addresses are literally one after the other, and it's the same size yard in a master plan community, like it is literally exactly the same. Like, which one are you going to choose? And then why don't we extend that same decision making to the other areas of our life? And that was a huge struggle for me. So like I understood work and the ability to generate like revenue by solving problems for other people. Because like, dude, fucking grown ass adults with money, yeah, they don't want to rake their fucking yard. No shit.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, when I make a bunch of money and I am running low on golf balls while I'm out on the course, if you walk up to me and position like, these are nice balls and you can just go on your merry way and I have to spend no extra time, energy, or effort, like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But that was really hard for me to be able to bridge the gap into thinking about things in terms of value rather than just like, cool, work works to make money. So if we need more money, we just need more work. And that's not the case. But you also have the variability of like, well, what is the return for that work? What is the value for that work? How much does that work make? Because you can only stack more work to a certain point, and then you have to be able to look at it differently. And I still do often chase work for the sake of work because I can associate like work, dollar. And it's like, well, dude, you've got 24 hours in your day. Not all of these things are equally valuable uses of your time.
Yep.
And I'm like, but they're all things to do that I enjoy that make money. And they're like, cool. Well, do you want your life to move forward, or do you want to do more of what you're doing at the present and what you have done in the past? I'm like, fuck. And so that's where like you have the ability to unearth some of your own views and beliefs around the nature of value, work, and money, because those things I see as all being very related. But we can segment like just money stuff in this. But do you have the ability to see where your desires, your ambitions, your goals, your wants, your dreams are limited by how you just view money as a construct? And I think that would be a worthwhile exercise. And that's something that like I wish somebody would have really engaged me in a purposeful way sooner. Like really held me to it, not made it like a conversation, be like, well, I don't know, I'll figure it out. Or like, maybe this or maybe that. Be like, no, let's really talk through it. I will own a Lamborghini. At some point, I will own a Lamborghini. Like I've wanted that for a long time. It's not super important. It will be a fairly shallow goal that once achieved will be easy to dissipate into like the recesses of my mind and move into the other thing. And I'll probably just like flip it or turn it around fairly short order. But like that is an achievement goal.
Yeah.
The achievement goal builds into some process goals. Process goals are the things that we do regularly as habitual pieces of changing our actions, our beliefs, like blah, 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 so that we can get to the achievement. So anyway, where I'm going with all of this is I have wanted a Lamborghini for a really long fucking time. I should have achieved it by now. Should is a dangerous word, but like I feel as though I could have for sure.
Yeah.
Had somebody earlier in my journey been like, cool, you want a Lamborghini? Like, how do we make this happen? Like, let's really talk through it. Be like, all right, well, I'm gonna like work hard and like save money. Like that, you know, that would have been like me like 1.0, like very, very, very early on. That's when I was pulling weeds and mowing yards, stacking all my dollars so that I could buy like a video game console. You work hard at the tasks that you can get somebody to agree to for whatever price you can get them to agree to, and then you save the dollars until the goal is reached. And so if somebody was like, all right, what does that look like for you to save and accumulate $250,000 to $300,000 of like cash on hand to do the thing? And you start kind of like reverse engineering it, and you're like, somewhere between like 70 years in network. Like, right. Okay. Have lots of other people achieve that goal? Yes. So they're using a different formula. And I think that's something that like I wish that I would have been exposed to or thought about. And I guess as I talk through it now, it's a better way to frame it and explain it to somebody else is like the goal is the goal. It's $100. There are a limitless number of equations that get us to $100. Literally fucking limitless. But for most of us, our formative view is like hourly rate and number of hours and then whatever we can save. And those are all just like constructs and ideas. And it sounds very like, I don't know, probably not concrete and tangible, but it very much so is. And so like being able to look at like what was one of the more formative pieces of changing how I viewed money as a whole, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That book is one of the singular most important books that I have encountered in my lifetime. To simply like change the nature of how you think about value and money and how the game can really be played. So let's say a Lamborghini is $300,000, but I'm willing to do the work to find a contact at Lamborghini. And I say like, hey, if I can help you guys pre-sell these 20, and by the way, this is all fucking theoretical because, this is so good. There's so much money out there in the world. Go fuck yourself if you don't believe that to be true. Lamborghini is sold out of cars until the end of 2025. The whole planet complains about like ceasing to exist and everything falling apart. People are spending money in greater quantities
like water
than we have in human history. There is a legitimate supply chain issue in the mega yacht world that people are running into a lot of trouble building boats that are greater than 200 feet in length. And so anyway, there's money out there. But if I go to, if I had the contact at Lamborghini and I was like, hey guys, if I can like, pre-sell 20 of these bad boys, like that's That's $6 million.
Mm.
That's not too shabby, right?
Mm.
And so, like, if I could help you pre-sell 20 of those, would it be, reasonable to look at something like a 5% commission?
Mm.
I think that's fairly reasonable. And be like, but wait, we could make it even better. Instead of actually having to pay me in commission, I'll just let you give it to me at cost. And so you have the ability to value me at 5% of that $6 million. That's the $300,000 for my Lamborghini.
Mm.
And it's even a better deal for you guys because you don't even have to be out of pocket $300,000. It's worth $300,000 to me, but like it really costs you guys probably like $115,000.
Yeah. Mm.
Didn't have to create anything. Didn't
No.
have to purchase anything, didn't have to take inventory of anything, didn't have to build anything, but like just as the nature of thinking about like how differently it is not this basic math equation of like 10 times 10 is how we get to 100. You do 10 hours of work at $10 an hour and that's 100. Be like, well, what if you just collected $1,000 and took 10% of that? You're like, but wait, what? It's like, congratulations. Welcome to the idea that like money is an idea.
Yeah, I really remember that lesson, going back to the affiliate is like, I went through a period of cutting expenses and I remember you and Tony are like, well, how far can you cut? Like, if you've got a shortfall, how far can you cut? And you're like, oh, well, down to this amount. Oh, well, that's not going to solve the problem. You need to earn money. I went,
right. And
yeah,
then
well,
what?
well, I'm getting memberships. I'm like, no. You can go and create money. And I think over the space of a weekend, I'd added 6K to the sheet because I'd created a product on the spot and got 5 members to do it. And it was the most valuable, lucrative thing I'd ever done. And
your
you're
whole
like,
life.
yeah.
And
And it was
rewires how you were forced to look at the world.
because until then, everything had been about, well, if you need more, you've got to cut things out to reprioritize and shift things around. You're like, well, you can only cut so far. And I hadn't even thought remotely of that concept. And it's like, well, you need $6,000. How are you going to make it? And there would have been a dozen ways I could have done it. It's like, what's the fastest path to that? Design a package that does it. And I don't have to sell 100 of them. I only have to sell 5. So, okay, tick. And that was a really big shift for me in my headspace about my value and my relationship around it's okay to earn an income. It's okay to earn, to generate revenue, and that you can make money out of nothing. You can make it out of thin air if you want to.
And that the money is also good for the person on the other side of the equation. That took me a long time to really understand and come to is like for a lot of people, if we're looking at provider A and provider B and nothing else changes besides the price, the higher price person will generally be more successful. Because the person transacting is making a greater investment in solving their problem. They're making a greater investment in themselves. It conveys more status. It conveys more seriousness. They have a greater opportunity cost. That was a really difficult thing for me in fitness. And I didn't realize that honestly until like really we were very, very late in it. And like in a lot of ways on the other side of it. Like it had already been predetermined that like that was not going to be our end game. And that's okay. But to really step away and be like, dude, you need to charge more money because like that's how people actually are successful for themselves.
People that pay attention.
And then you're like, everybody's buying store brand ramen. Nobody's got money. And you're like, well, how many of your clients do you get fucking feelsy about? Because on a regular basis, they're buying like new phones and new shoes and new cars and going on vacation. It's like, dude, the money's there.
Yeah,
it's
what they prioritize. Yeah, and it's a story that we tell ourselves to stop asking. So it's like, oh, well, there's no money. I'm not going to ask. My members are all stretched to capacity. It's like,
well, because like how many times did we ask when we were kids
and got nothing?
And we got the answer that like there's no money, there's no money, there's no money, there's no money. But like it'd be very different if you had like wealthy parents. And they're just like, well, how do we create value? Where do we find money? Who has money? What is money? Like, is there something that we can exchange that's more valuable than money? And like that's a lesson that I wish I would have really been able to learn and apply sooner is like really looking at relationships and reciprocity and like networking, but being able to correlate value structures monetarily to it. That's abstract as shit. So as an example, we had a really great couple in the gym, Adam and Jamie, and Adam was a super successful young hotshot dentist, and Jamie was his wife, his practice manager. They ran a fucking incredible clinic. They were very good at the game of business. They had previous CrossFit and fitness experience. Some good, some not so good, but like, man, as good of a client type as you could have possibly like selected. They're a couple, no kids, business, residents, like they're not going anywhere. They're high income earners. They are service providers. They're young. They've got an incredibly long timeline. They value high level service providing. And we elected to not transact dollars with them, but instead trade services, because that worked a whole lot better for both of us. And, you know, that's not always like the thing that most people do in the gym, but like it really comes back to like your views and your beliefs on money and what's valuable to you. Vanessa has some genetic issues with her teeth as a whole. And then also because of money issues in her own life, in her own family, and then the stories that she told herself about being a burden, about being, you know, a problem and contributing to the already scarce money. There was a lot of dental work that she didn't get when she was growing up. And it is a thing that has like really plagued her entire adult life. Incremental cost to serve to add just another 2 people into the gym, because we're already profitable. Classes are already going on. Coaches are already on payroll. So like our incremental cost of bringing them into our ecosystem is almost nothing. Our ability to exchange in a trade of value hugely in our favor to get multiples of thousands of dollars of really high quality dental work. But if we had looked at like these more limiting beliefs around money is like, okay, $10 an hour for 10 hours is how I get $100. And what does it cost for you to fix my teeth?
Yep.
Something I really wish that somebody would have just got me to step away from is like, how can we exchange value?
And that's
maybe one of those ways that we exchange value is dollars. Dollars are a universal communicator of value. That's why they exist. But that's not it. Like that is not the only limitation of it. And I wish that like that would have been a thing that somebody would have really encouraged me to nurture my views and mindset around, is like, if you can think about things from a perspective of value, you will also often solve for money in a better way.
And I think if you have that opportunity to exchange value or reciprocity in a relationship with somebody, rather than just tin tack zeros, you know, dollars and cents, it actually leads to a greater dynamic, or potentially, if it's done well, a greater dynamic in the relationship, because people like to help. They like to, you know, think I'm doing something for you. And it's not just, well, I'm doing this for you, Chuck, because you're paying me, you know, $300. It's like, I'm doing this for you because, you know, I have something that can help you. And then I know that you're going to help me. And it's just that rewarding relationship, rather than, well, you're only doing it because I'm paying you $300. You know, that can lead to a lot of people will just do the bare minimum, or, you know, they're just going to do what $300 gets them, rather than, well, this is what I'm doing for you because I want to help you as much as I can. And this is the nature of our relationship.
Well, and if we can think about the overall value being exchanged, we can build a huge number of different opportunities to make that happen in different money models. So, you know, for Vanessa's dental work, let's say it was $4,000 total, 2 clients, $200 a piece in there. So $400 a month for 12 months gets us like basically to our number. Like, we're a little bit over, but like, damn, we're pretty close, right? So like $4,800. So, okay, we need this dental work and we need it now. We engage in this trade relationship, and then like I'm amortizing this credit over the course of the next year. If I'm lucky, or maybe they're like, well, I don't want you to get this dental work and then shut the gym down and fuck us. So like, I would actually like to have that credit on the front end, and then we'll provide the service on the back end. Like whatever. Could work in either direction, but like the overall is like, can we look at what is this value? What is the initial timeline based on the base structure? Cool. What if instead of that, I give you more focus, time, energy, and effort, and I do 2 PT sessions a week with each of you for 12 weeks? Cool, we're done. So you can take 12 months to work on your goals, or we can take 12 weeks. Maybe we have to wait 12 months to get our dental work, or maybe we get it same day, or maybe we get it in 12 weeks. But just appreciating that if we can identify the value, the overall value for either party, then we can manipulate a million things in the in-between. And that is the thing that I wish somebody would have walked me through, is that price is not value. And that value has a lot of room to be manipulated very ethically, very morally, because like value is flexible. Because with stories, we can change values.
Yep.
With beliefs, we can change values. How many affiliate owners that are in a shitty spot have $5,000? None. That's why they're in a shitty spot. And time again, we figure out that like, even though they're in a shitty spot, because we can change the value structure, the timeline, and the belief, all of a sudden, like, it makes too much sense to say no.
Yeah, you find it every time.
You're like, oh, like, I have to. I have to, because like what's working isn't working. It hasn't worked, and it's not gonna work. And so something has to change. And so if this is the inevitability that like to get here, this gap must be closed. And based on this length of time where we've only done this, I don't know how to solve that on my own. Or I do, but I'm not willing to take that action.
Yeah, and you will, if something means enough to you, you will always find a way to do it. Every time. Like, how many times
value
in my journey was my back up against the wall, like to make rent or to do something, and I would do it every time.
Yeah, like 100% success rate.
100%, pull it out of the fire every fucking time, and I would find a new and creative way to do it every time because I had to. And the same as when I started my relationship with Fitfilia, it's like, okay, I will make this money happen. I don't know how, but I'm going to make it happen because I have to do it. You're compelled to do it. Whereas if it was like, oh, yeah, maybe I will, maybe I won't, oh, I can't find it. It's not a priority to find it and create it. And then work your ass off to make that back to cover, that outlay. So having that perception of, what something's worth and, what it means to you, really, you can change that in a blink. Absolutely. Yeah. And I've seen people who like, no, can't afford that. Give them the right offer. It's like, bang, done. Thank you. And you'll see them drop.
They're so good they feel stupid saying no. And like, if you can really understand value, and if you can really understand solving problems, it's a very different conversation to have. And so I wish that my earlier influences, I wish somebody would have helped me wrap my head around value rather than just income, expenses, money.
What's left?
Fuck, dude, value. Value is the shortcut to really being forced to confront a lot of pieces of your beliefs around money.
And some of us don't, find that out till you run your own business. If you're just doing paid employment,
I would
exchanging time for money, you don't get it.
Yeah. I would feel fairly confident in saying that most people, the only two paths that I would say are typically available to most people to really work on changing a lot of those beliefs and stories around money, unless, I guess, three paths. Deliberately engage in the process of like learning, observing, and changing those beliefs, probably with a coach, because you can't figure it out on your own because you don't even know it exists. So like that would be one option. Option number two, become a high income earner in an employee capacity. Because you will have enough money to operate from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. And that in and of itself changes an enormous amount. And based on the nature of being a high income earning employee, you must be valuable in some form or fashion. So that will help you figure out abundance rather than scarcity. And it will help you figure out value without having to navigate it all on your own. And then like third, probably the most powerful, but potentially for a lot of people, the hardest, the slowest, and the least desirable, just own a business.
Yep.
Own a business and get a coach, or you're probably fucked. But like, dude, that's true. And like that, it doesn't have to be hard for the sake of being hard. And that is a big piece to look at in the overall lens of views and beliefs in money.
And I think
money can be fast. Money can be easy. Money can be simple. It is not always those things, and you'd be a fool to assume it to ever be any of those things. But you need to make space in your brain to believe that that can be true. There is fast, easy money that happens every single day.
All the time. And I think that, you know, a lot of these problems can be solved for if we had more conversations about it, either earlier in our journeys or just in general. Like,
dude, all of our shit would be better with conversations. That's why the fucking powers that be are trying to strip us of the ability to engage consistently and deliberately in longer form discussion and debate.
Yep. Which is, you know,
reels and like, let's just kill everybody's attention span. Let's keep everybody busy and distracted and unfocused and like not have people actually coalesce and collate their own thoughts and ideas.
And I mean, and that's the point of this podcast. It's the conversation about the things that nobody's talking about to share that with Liam and everyone else who watches.
Yeah, dude, I spent a long time like working really hard for a little bit of money, and don't ever lose the hard work.
Yeah, gotta work.
Learn to find work that you can work hard on that you love.
Yeah,
I believe genuinely that humans are better as creatures, as a species, as an animal, when we are engaging in hard work, both like physically, mentally, emotionally. Like we're designed to push. We're designed to survive. We're designed to grow. I think that hard work is like necessary, but don't assume that hard work has to be miserable. Don't assume hard work has to be toiling. Don't assume like that hard
you don't have to suffer.
Be enjoyable.
Yeah.
Hard work is okay, but value is more important than price.
Yep.
Value is malleable. There's always a deal to be made.
And there's always someone willing to help you.
Yeah. Well,
you're just going to make the ask.
Yeah, like be okay making asks and be okay looking for understanding. Spend some time learning about money. I think that most people's lives would be so dramatically improved that it would otherwise be unrecognizable if they spent 20 hours learning about how money works, learning about how the system works.
Yeah.
Learning about like what is like really just like on a very basic level, like how does the economy work?
Yeah.
Because most people got like the 10,000 foot view when they were in middle school or high school, and they were probably fucking hungover, high or both, and they just didn't give a shit because it wasn't contextualized at all. They're like, here's fucking 600 pages about the wheels of bureaucracy and like how a bill becomes a law, and you're like, I'm trying to get laid. What the fuck are you talking about? I don't care. But then you become an adult and everybody like bemoans, like, I didn't get what I needed to out of the education system. It's like, well, they probably were not very well equipped and you probably weren't the right person at the right time.
To deal with that, yeah. So
recommended reading. There's two pieces that I would say for sure. The first one, Tony Robbins, Money, Master the Game. That I think is the best, most actionable book on what actually to do about money with your money.
Yep.
So Tony Robbins, Money, Master the Game. And then earlier I'd mentioned Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That is very like high level, but it is not at a high level. Yeah. It is written at like a 3rd or 4th grade level, but it's concepts of like value structure and money. And you think about like things, how, you know, Union Pacific came to be and how Standard Oil came to be. And you're like, oh, they're these guys that just, hey, you got a problem? Hey, you got a problem? Like, y'all want to solve a problem together? Just like cut me in a little bit. And if you can really understand that, like, wow, that's powerful. And then Morgan Housel, I believe, is the author. I'm trying to look for it right now. It is Morgan Housel, The Psychology of Money. And that's a lot of where our views, our beliefs, and our stories with money come from, and just how poorly we we actually understand the things that we think we understand.
Yep. Perfect. I will throw those in the show notes.
Those are my 3 books.
Those are your 3 books. Awesome.
Liam, go make money, dude. I don't know. I think we're doing a good job with that. He doesn't often trade time for tasks. That's a piece of it, because everybody needs to toil, because that's where we build character and humility. But he runs, he's got his lemonade stand. He's got his hot chocolate stand. He does like his little art projects. Like we're trying to really help him understand better uses, better vehicles, better opportunities. But it's a process, and I sure as shit don't have it figured out. But man, if he can just start off a little bit better than me, based on where me and Vanessa have ended up on a long enough timeline, like I think it's going to sort itself out.
Those 1%ers work out well. All right, my friend. Good to talk to you, and I look forward to chatting soon.
Thank you so much for listening to another conversation with Chuck Bennington. Hope it was enjoyable for you. Hope there was some value and some benefit in it. Maybe even had a laugh or two. Even though these are primarily for me and Liam, we sure love to help a friend in need, because it's a friend indeed. So if there was some piece of it that was good, please feel free to share it with somebody else and pay it forward. If you think what we're doing is rad and you want to support it, please just like, subscribe, share, tell a friend. Appreciate you, dudes.